All right, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Toon podcast. We are the Southern Hemisphere's biggest, best, and only dedicated podcast to all things Newcastle United. And I am joined by Lee as we preview the final return of the Premier League games this weekend for the Brentford game coming up. How are you doing, Lee?
I'm all right, thanks, Craigie. I was just saying before we came on here, like it seems like it's been forever since that last game against Brighton. It's been a long 2 weeks, hasn't it? I mean, obviously there's been internationals in the middle. 2 weeks doesn't seem that long a time, but like when you've got a pretty disappointing defeat to stew over that whole time, as you wait for the chance to do something about it, which is next game, doesn't have to drag by, man. I'm really pleased the weekend's almost upon us, and we're going to get another game of Premier League in. How are you going?
I'm canny, no complaints from me. Spring share in Queensland, weather's turning just nice. Hopefully it doesn't get too hot too quick. But no, this is Australia. It's what I moved here for. Can't really complain.
You will anyway.
Oh, God, I will not. But just to give you a quick rundown of what we're going to be talking about today. So first up, we're going to talk about the stack, the development of the fan zone, the Strawberry Place. Details of that just got announced a few days ago, so we'll touch on that. A little bit on the international games and some of the injuries that may or may not have happened whilst players have been away with their respectable countries. And then we will get into the preview of the Brentford game. But before we do so, if you don't already, please like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. It really does help us out on everything that we do moving forward. And if you are listening on the audio side of things, please give us a 5-star review where you can. So we're going to dive straight into this. We're going to go on to the stack, or as it's officially going to be called, St. James Stack, powered by Seller. First of all, Lee, what do you think of that name?
Bit of a mouthful, isn't it? Imagine doing that after you've had a few Moretti's in the stack, and you're trying to sort of reel that one off. You'll not get past the first few letters. I suppose it's inevitable there'll be a sponsorship attached to it, not just Newcastle United. It'll be by Seller. It's already called the Stacks, obviously, so that's the group that's doing it in the first place. So, you're always going to have that name there. Yeah, it's a mouthful, but it's fine. Who cares?
Yeah. So if for anyone who's been living under a rock for the last few weeks and months, basically it's just reconditioned shipping containers laid out to be some type of bar, bistro, dining area type thing. It is open roof, which to me is a little bit strange considering they expect to get it open in round about November, December time. So you'll have all those mad Geordies after 17 pints inside the stand heading back out to have another 17 pints inside when it's snowing. Brass monkeys, but would we have it any other way? It's what we do best, I suppose, isn't it?
Well, it is a funny choice, mind you. It'll be absolutely bollock.
But I think the fans will be loving it. Getting on to some of the designs, they'll release some of the artwork. But I'll show just the location first of all. Just going to bring up one or two slides on the screen first. So as we've got right here, for those who are watching, you'll see the red area. That is the planned positioning area of the stack. It's basically on the grounds of the old Metro Centre, St. James's Metro car park, which is now effectively used for just building supplies and shit like that, I believe. So it's going to be quite a decent area. One thing we're not aware of yet, Lee, is the capacity of the area. Don't know if you've read or heard anything about that.
Did I not hear 1,000, 2,000, something along those lines? Someone mentioned that. I don't know if it was in the chat or in online discussion. I'm not sure exactly. It looks, you kind of think about it as being a fairly small area, but I think it's not as small as people might think. You can get a fair few cars in there, so there should be a fairly decent crowd. It just depends how much they take up with the shipping containers, I suppose.
That's true. But move on to the next image here. Now, this is one basically looking out onto the Gallagher. It's not taking up too much space in terms of spotting the view as you're walking up from Chinatown to the Gallagher end. And it looks like it's going to be maybe 2 stories high, if you want to call it that, or maybe 1 floor level with a balcony area. That's what you want to call it. But basically, that's looking out to the Sandman at the corner of the Gallagher and Milburn end. Doesn't look too bad at all from those first impressions. It does still effectively maybe resemble a builder's yard because of, again, the shipping containers on that one. May look better in the flesh if I finally get to see it. Next image. Now, this just shows inside with a load of just tables, which seem to be made from old scaffold and poles or something by the looks of it, with a few boards hoid on top. and a stage at the back as well. Now, the stage, I'm thinking, is a pretty good idea because you could maybe have ex-players doing talks before and after the game, something like that, a good way to get them into that area as it opens. Your thoughts on that design inside, Lee?
It's pretty basic. It reminds me a little bit of a German beer house, where they just have long
really does, actually.
benches that you just all kind of sit on and get monged and inevitably puke all over. At least I did. Is this a roof on this bit here? It looks kind of like there's a roof on this one there.
I think it's supposed to be a nighttime shot, or there'll be a part cover. I think it's more like a canopy type thing. So if it's raining, you're not going to get wet, but it's still going to be open effectively.
All right. Well, I think having the stage, nice idea. Don't forget, this isn't meant to be just for match days. This is meant to be all week round, really. I mean, it remains to be seen just exactly on what days this opens. But yeah, you could use that stage for other things, not just football related. You could show things on the screen there. The screen looks a little bit smaller than I thought. There's a biggish one to the left there. Have they mentioned anything about if they're going to show anything to do with the games in this bit? I can't imagine they will, but is there any talk?
I don't think they can. I don't think they're legally allowed to, are they? Due to broadcasting rights, that type of thing. Obviously, games are broadcast live on TV for obvious reasons, but I don't think any games that aren't televised, unless they want to stick a dodgy box around the back and get the Saudis to start publishing illegal content again, the stuff that got the takeover block.
I just remember they used to do beanbacks, and I remember being in Shearers underneath the Gallagher, and they'd have the game on in there as well sometimes. It obviously depends on the competition and that kind of stuff, but it'd be interesting to see if they could get a game in here, because that'd be quite a good way of getting extra people involved, extra fans.
I suppose it could maybe charge for entry fee, that type of thing, if it was a ticket thing, maybe. More revenue for the club, which we'll touch on in just a sec. And the final image for this one, again, just shows, again, upper level type balcony type area with more seating area. I think there's a burger bar, whatever they're going to do in all of that area as well. So it looks like it's going to be well catered for, but it's not just fans, like you said, it's going to be people throughout the week. Kids will be more than welcome to go, that type of thing. And I think it was yourself that touched on it in the chat. It'll be a good place for people who've maybe never been to the stadium before, those first times, or away fans where they want to go for a drink before the game or anything like that. It's right at the foot of St. James's Park. Yes, the beer is going to be extortionately priced, but where isn't it on a match day, that type of thing? But I do think it's a good idea. I mean, what are your initial thoughts on it? And do you think this could have the potential to outlast the potential 3 years that it's expected to be there for, whilst they decide what they want to do with the ground?
I think it's very much a temporary thing to make use of that land, get some revenue in while they work out what they're going to do with the ground. So I think maybe it runs over and they need more time, and this maybe gets an extension. But I imagine I would like to think that after 3 years we've got a plan and we can start doing something about it and to increase the capacity of the stadium, however that might look. And if it involves this bit of land, then obviously this wouldn't last much more than 3 years. But in general, I think it's fine. It's only 2 levels, so it's not going to impede the view, was one of the first things I thought of. It's not going to be what was originally meant to be there, like a block of student flats where you couldn't see the Gallagher at all. So I'm pleased about that. It might impact a little bit on, say, the Strawberry and its business on match day, but anybody who's been to Strawberry knows fine well how absolutely rammed that place gets before the game, and people get turned away all the time. So it actually might be a nice thing for people to have another alternative on the doorstep kind of place to go, if they can't get in the Strawberry. And obviously, when it comes to revenue, it's vital that the club shows and can actually implement new avenues of revenue to to take us forward. So while this might not be generating tens of millions, every little bit will help. And if it improves the match day experience, like a fan zone kind of thing, then I'm all for it. I know you jokingly asked for some negatives in the chat, and I kind of jokingly came up with some things off the top of my head that people might complain about. I haven't actually seen anyone complain about this, but I'm sure they're out there. But I think on the whole, considering we want the club to bring in more money and do well, I think this is it's a good idea. Why not?
Do you see the council knocking it back, or do you think it'll get full approval and the building work will start as soon as possible?
I would like to think that they have already touched base with the council before they put the planning permission in. A big concern like Newcastle with all the clever people who run it, the Rubens who have done a lot of business in the city itself. They'll have back channels to the council, and I'll be bloody shocked if they haven't actually said, look, what do you reckon about this? Anything that you can say, behind the scenes that we should change before we come at you with a full proposal that we're going to go public about. Obviously, if this gets turned down by the council, the club's going to look like an absolute bunch of idiots. So I'll be extremely surprised if this gets turned down. Maybe there's a tweak here or there, but I think on the whole, it'll go ahead without much trouble, I think.
I think one of the other things that will help get its approval is the fact it's creating 150 full-time jobs. I think that is another bonus for the area and for the region. Jobs are getting a bit scarce pretty much everywhere right now, and having 150 extra full-time jobs for those who may only work casual on their match day or anything, I guess, may decide they want to go and work there on a full-time basis. So it's all good for the area. It's good for the region. It'll be good for away fans if they want to get in there as well. The banter is always good with away fans in Newcastle. I'm looking forward to it. I hope building work does start on as soon as possible. Let us know in the comments what you think. If you think it's a good idea, if you think it's a bad idea, what you would like to see in that area in 3 years' time if they haven't decided to redo it and build even bigger, better bars, whatever, on top. But we'll leave that on bit there for now. And we're just going to touch now on the international side of things. So, as you mentioned, Lee, it's been about 2 weeks or so since we last kicked the ball in anger. Win that 3-0 defeat away to Brighton. How have you processed the last 2 weeks in terms of the international games that have gone on? And I know you're a massive fan of international football. You live in international football. You live for international football. A lot of our players were away. So we had trips away with England. We had Miggy with Paraguay. We had Big Joe and Bruno with Brazil, and Tonali with Italy, plus a few others, all the way with their respective countries. Your thoughts on international friendlies and the potential injuries that have come from these games? Do you see a need for an international friendly?
Well, they've always existed, so I'm not going to bother trying to argue against their existence. But I don't like seeing these games in the middle of a season. I mean, last season was obviously ridiculous with the World Cup, but in general, I'm just not a fan of having internationals, whether they're friendlies or if they're full, qualifiers like they are at the minute. I'm not a fan of doing it in the middle of a season when the clubs are trying to keep these guys fit and sharp and focused on the job at hand, keep them in and around the club, keep them in and around each other, get that kind of, ability to play together, develop on tactics, and then you drop a bloody 2-week break in to go off to some friendly or to some qualifier, and I can't help but think it just disrupts a lot of things in the minds of people like Eddie Howe, who is very specific and very particular and very focused on the training schedules and everything else that he does. For the players, it's one of those kind of feathers in the cap. It's one of those, hey, look at me, I'm an international. But and I get that. Like it's fine. I can understand why they want to play for the country. Who wouldn't? But for me as a fan, it does me nothing, because inevitably, we said this in the summer, I think. It was the summer. Yeah, summer. Inevitably, as much as it is a nice thing for these players to go off and play internationals, inevitably they're going to risk getting injured. And as you've just said, we've had half a dozen that might be a little bit dubious for this game at the weekend. I suspect it's not as bad as being made out, but nonetheless, you go off and do this kind of game in a different country on different pitches, different training schedules and regimes, because you got, obviously Southgate in England's case, puts the players through a different sort of routine as it does to Eddie Howe, say, and it's just a recipe for things to go wrong. And I think in the case of Newcastle, given the way the season has started with a bit of a damp squib, the last thing you want is to start worrying about players getting injured. I want everyone to be sharp and raring to go, and I don't want them to be distracted. For me, these things should be at the end of the season, but there's lots of money to be made. There's competitions that have to be qualified for. There's just not enough time in the day, is there really? What do you? I mean, that's me though. But that's always been me. But what do you reckon about them, Craig?
I get the World Cup qualifiers, Euro qualifiers, or whichever country you're representing in which area. I get that. That's absolutely fine. But I think just having a meaningless friendly, just how you smack bang in the middle of a season. I mean, we're 4 games in. Teams are just starting to build momentum. They're just starting to put a rhythm together, type of thing. Then it's just disrupted. I don't get why that needs to be. If they have to do it, have a break at winter time, like what all the other leagues do in and around Europe, and play those friendlies if they have to. Then do those qualifiers. Then don't break the league up in between. I just don't get it. It just really annoys me because we've had the likes of Tonali, Anderson, Miggy, who may or may not have been playing through the pain barrier for Paraguay the other day. They've all picked up some type of knock or injury whilst away, and these were effectively in a friendly or a qualifier which could have been rescheduled for another time of the year, where they would then have time to recover rather than having, I think, what the Bruno sent that photo on Instagram with the 3 of them traveling back to England yesterday. They would arrive, maybe 7-8 hours later back in Newcastle. Not sure what the time difference or whatever it's going to be. They're going to have 2 or 3 days of recuperation and very little training time to get prepared for this game against Brentford. It's stupid. It's useless. It doesn't need to be like that. They should have a little break, an international window break.
And that's the problem, with 2 or 3 days in between. And look, we can complain about other managers always complaining about this, but the fact of the matter is players need time to get over not just the games, but the jet lag and everything else that's involved invariably with these long hauls. The manager needs to be able to talk to these guys and say, right, this is what we're going to do in this game. Let's run through a few routines, bit of practice. There's not much time for that. I will say though, on the other side of the coin, given that our start of the season's been pretty mediocre, on the positive side, perhaps it's a nice thing that gives Eddie Howe a bit of time to really, without any other distractions, sit down with his coaching staff and say, all right, lads, let's go through this with a fine-tooth comb. Let's try a few things out ourselves before the guys come back. Or obviously there'll still be some players there that they can work with as well. Because Nick Pope didn't go, for example. So they can still work on things, and maybe they'll have more time to work on a one-to-one basis. Maybe sort out Nick Pope's head, stop losing it. And so, it's not all negative. There can be positives in that regard. And if we win at the weekend and we smash Brentford, then, some people might look at that and say, well, that actually worked out all right for us. Depends how it goes.
Could very well be the case.
But on the whole, I hate them.
I think as a Newcastle fan base, because we haven't had a lot of people representing the club internationally over however the last many years or so, there's been the odd few. I think it is, and I'll probably speak for the majority of the fan base here, it's always been club before country as far as I'm concerned. I would much rather Newcastle win something before England do, or whichever nation you're from. I think you'd much rather want Newcastle win something. You're probably exactly the same in that regard, and I think a lot of the fans are too. But that may change over the years as we get more players representing England or whoever down the path, We'll see. But as far as I'm concerned, club before country all day long.
Yeah.
Now, potential injuries from those friendlies, World Cup qualifiers or whatever. So Tonali being potentially one of the big ones. Muscle fatigue is what's being reported out of Italy. Whether that's going to keep him out of the game, we won't know. We will find out in Eddie's presser, I'd imagine, which will be sometime on Friday. Miggy is mentioned. He looks like he had cramp in the first game, but he did play 85 minutes in the second, so he should be all right, providing again he wasn't playing through the pain barrier. And Anderson, he had a knock in the Scottish camp. Whether he was carrying a knock beforehand or not, that I don't know, and he just aggravated it further. But these are 2 players, Tonali and Anderson, who could be joining the treatment table, along with Botman, who are, especially Tonali, key components of the first team squad. How do you think that's going to affect Eddie's approach to the game?
Well, it largely depends on how bad the injury is. I mean, every time I see a player leave a camp, I usually think to myself, this guy's just trying to get out of this game. But the problem with with Tonali is that I was just reading here, it's like a crucial qualifier for the Euros against Ukraine. So you'd think, on the balance of probability, that he's left there because he has done something. Now, if it's like a corgi or it's something else where his muscles just need a few days off, then he might be all right for the weekend. It depends on how long he's been back to Newcastle. It depends on how much time the physios have had on him. He's, as much as he was brilliant against Villa, he's been on and off a little bit on the games afterwards. Not all the time, but here and there. And I think it might be not the worst thing in the world for him not to play. But I do think that we are stronger with him in the team, because you want your best players playing, and they're the ones who can produce the magic. So you want him to be playing, I think. So fingers crossed he's all right. I think I put him in my team that you're going to get onto soon. So I'm fingers crossed that he's all right, yeah.
Well, we'll get on to the Brentford preview now. So the game itself kicks off 5:30 local time in the UK. It is live on Sky Sports. 5:30 translates to a lush 2:30 a.m. kickoff for us, I believe, Lee. I know.
Christ.
2:30 Sunday morning. How mint is that?
This is a Sunday morning, not a Monday.
That's true. I'll tell you what, I'm longing for the first 3 o'clock kickoff. That's going to be midnight for us until the clocks change. I don't think we got that until October, which is a pain in the arse. But I suppose it's a privilege of being one of the popular teams to watch on TV, isn't it?
Every game seems to be on the telly now, doesn't it? This season, anyway.
Mm-hmm. It's a bit of a battle for the bank manager, that's for sure. He'll be loving it. But yeah, 2:30 a.m. kickoff for us. Muggins will be watching it, as will a lot of us on the pod will be. I don't think it goes without saying this, Lee, but you reckon this is a must-win game?
No, it's not a must-win game.
No?
It's only the 5th game of the season, man. But is it 5th game? It feels like the 5th game.
It is,
so no, it's not a must-win, but it'd be bloody nice if we did. Like, it's so early in the season that it's not crucial. It's not the end of the world if we don't win. But if you look at the Premier League fixtures, starting with Brentford, you've got Sheffield United, Burnley, West Ham, and Crystal Palace. With the possible exception of West Ham, those are all as near as bank as you'd probably predict ahead of the season starting. West Ham obviously are doing all right at the minute, so who knows about that one. But this kind of starts a run of a bunch of winnable games. Now, yes, there are Champions League games. Nice. I'm not going to complain about it, but there are Champions League games in between each of these, as well as a League Cup game against City. And it remains to be seen how well we do after travel to Europe, and how well we recover from the cup game. But these league games are there to be won. I think we can start with Brentford, but if we don't, we'll start at Sheffield United, and sooner or later we'll get rolling. I'm not concerned, but I mean, do you think it's a must win? I don't see how it is.
I think I don't care how we win as long as we do. When I'll take a scrappy 1-0 all day long. Obviously, we'll do that every week. Means you get to 3 points. But I think a draw would be, depending on how the game pans out, obviously. If we're blown off the park and we scrape a draw, then fair enough, well done, a Brentford type thing. But if it's another defeat, I wouldn't want to be around social media. I wouldn't want to be around the city, the town, or anything like that, because it will just be more toxic than ever before. The NUFC Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it, sphere lately is just been absolutely horrendous. And I just can't see getting any better with anything other than 3 points. And I see this game is almost the same as, can remember the Wolves game, the back end of last season, just after the League Cup final, how important it was to get that win, to get the momentum going, to have that push towards the end of the season. Mm-hmm. This, I say, is the same, but it's the push to get our season up and running effectively.
Yeah, no, look, it can be a springboard. Obviously, that's kind of what I'm saying. It can be a springboard, but any of those games can be springboards. I don't see this one as a must-win, like, do or die or anything. Obviously, we all want to win. I don't care if it bounces off someone's balls and goes in. I couldn't give a crap. As long as if we win, fantastic. Yes, there's going to be toxicity around on Twitter, but what's new? That's par for the course. I would like to think that the sensible fans can see it for what it is. It's just it's football. You're not guaranteed, and you don't have any right to win games. Just because you had a good season last season doesn't mean that translates into this season at all.
Completely agree.
It doesn't matter how much you spend either, because these players have got to learn to play with each other. And with the internationals that we just talked about, that time gets chopped up into little pieces, and you struggle to meld together. So no, I want us to win, obviously, but no, it's not the end of the world. It's the start of a good run, and that's all it is. Let's hope we get the win.
Aye. Well, looking at form, obviously both teams have played 4 games, and both have just got the 1 win in 4, but Brentford have drawn the other 3. Their only win came out of 3-0 away to Fulham a few weeks ago. They've drawn with, I think it was Spurs. They were lucky to get a point down at Bournemouth. They got a 93rd minute equaliser, I think it was down there. And we both watched the Bournemouth game against Spurs a few weeks ago, and we've seen how terrible Bournemouth were. So if Bournemouth can get a few past them, and Bournemouth were terrible in front of goal, then they're a bit leaky at the back. But then again, so are we, especially with our Botman. But again, we'll get to that. And this fixture over the last few games, anyways, does pull in a few goals. There's been 12 goals in the last 2 games over the same fixture. The first one was that 3-3 Mayhem, which was actually the very first game we covered as a podcast. All those nearly 2 years back now. That was our very first game we covered, which would have been Eddie Howe's first game in charge, but obviously got COVID. And then again, the same fixture last season, we ran out winners 5-1, where Muggins here had to dye his Swede. If you haven't seen that already, go on the shorts page of our YouTube channel to see how bad I actually looked. But I did carry through with the bet. And no, I will not be making a stupid bet for this game this season. Not yet, anyway.
Miserable.
I've had an alcohol today, so that's all right. But 12 goals in 2 games across the last 2 shows it could be a bit of a goal fest. Watch be a boring 0-0 draw. Now I've just said that. But we talked again on the Brighton game how the AMX is a bit of a bogey ground for us. St James is a bit of a bogey ground for Brentford. They haven't won at St James's Park since the 34-35 season, so nearly 90 years. They came away with 3 points here. We've only played them 8 times at St James's, so there's been a lot of gaps in between. But yeah, there's a lot of goals, not as many games as we would have liked against them, but it's not the favourite place for theirs to travel. And without Ivan Toney being there, who's obviously their number 1 target man up front, they've had to look at other options. And Brian Mbuemo, I think I pronounced that right, he's hit the ground running this season. He's got 4 goals in as many games as a right winger. That's pretty impressive. What have you seen of Brentford this season, and where do you think their threats lie in attack?
Well, the leading goal scorer, definitely. What's his name? Mbuemo, something like that, isn't it?
Mbuemo, I think. Like, like how Bruno likes his Kinder Buenos.
Aye, like that. He's a decent player, obviously. He started the season well. Some players always do start the season well, and when one team or another, there's always someone who's banging them in. Usually Mitrovic, and then he disappears at Christmas time, never to be seen again. But otherwise, obviously Tony would have been one there, but he's been banged up or just banned or whatever the hell's going on with Tony at the minute. Not seeing him for a little while. Otherwise, I couldn't tell you an awful lot about their team. I remember the game last season. What was that one where? Was it the one where we brought on players at half time, like Wilson and was it Wilson and Isaac at half time and won 2-1?
Isaac was already on, I think. We brought Wilson on at half time and came out 2-1 winners. I think we had 2 penalties, scored 1, Pope saved the other, and we ran them ragged in that second half. That was down at their place.
But I remember the first half was pretty tight. Like it looked, they looked pretty handy at the time. I think they were on a good run as well, if I remember rightly. And we changed things at half times, did a Rafa special, and came out and managed to run away with it in the end. If you take lessons away from that one, then we should expect a pretty difficult game. But it's the Premier League; you're not going to get an easy game anyway. But specifically about Brentford, can't really say that much. I don't sit here and watch Brentford. Doesn't sound like the sort of thing League would do. So I don't know. What can you tell us? Maybe you know more than I do. I don't know.
Well, they are decent in attack. From what I've been looking at some of the stats, a lot of their attack, especially away from home, goes down their left-hand side, so our right. So that's you're looking at likes of Miggy and Tripp's defensive duties on that one. Maybe a bit more needed than this one. They don't really do much in terms of through the middle or on the right hand side. It is more left side attack away from home. A lot of the goals are coming from open play, so it shows that they're probably either patient in attack or good on the counter attack, one of the two. One thing, going back to the game last season at St James's Park, where we executed the press pretty much perfectly last season, where I think 2 or 3 of the goals we scored came from errors, which they created of their own behalf, just for us applying that to expertise pleasure. But in terms of the press being missing so far this season, if we're going to try and get the 3 points, is that something you want to see come back against Brentford this weekend?
Do I want us to see us win 3 points?
No, to use the press that bit more this weekend, how effective it was last season against them.
I was looking at their team there. That's what I was half listening. I was looking at the team. I realized Magpies is in that team. Magpies, your favorite player.
Was.
So if he's in the attack, we've got nothing to worry about, have we? Look, the press has been strangely absent. Even against Villa, it was, and that was at home in the first game of the season. It was kind of on and off until they kind of lost Mings and sort of self-destructed a little bit. And we didn't really see it against Liverpool in the second half. It just sort of vanished. Brighton, you don't often get a chance to use it, but when we did try to press, they just played through it with their superior positioning and ball retention. So obviously it needs to be applied at the right time. I think we have to be aware that certain teams, depending on how good the manager is and how he wants to set them up, bear in mind also that we're at home, so that'll come into it. But certain managers, the better ones, will have seen, certainly even from this season, how teams are dealing with us, and they'll try and apply that if they've got the players into their own, into their own tactics. It might be the case that Brentford, being away from home, sit back a little bit, but they'll be pretty confident, having not lost in the first 4 games. So if we are going to press, I think we need to be a little bit clever about how we do it. It might come down to how we deal with balls over the top, over the back, because that seems to be a little bit of a weakness of us when we're pushing too far up. So the top of our defensive third, and teams are seen to get behind us a little bit, as Liverpool did. So if we do the press, and it'd be nice to see it because it worked so well last year, I want it to be an intelligent press, and I don't want it to be the only thing that we do. Like, if it's not working, if we go out there initially and think, right, let's do a little bit of pressing, and it doesn't work, I want to see an alternative tactic be employed, where we can sort of nullify what threats they're bringing and then get back into some sort of shape and then, attack again. I don't want us to try and stick to the same thing over and over again when it's not working. So, initially, I wouldn't mind seeing it. We're at home. The fans will be hopefully up for it. I'd like to think the fans will stick with us for the whole game. Depends how it turns out on the day. But yeah, I mean, what else are we going to do? It's not like we're going to sit back. Obviously, we're not going to sit back at home. We don't do that anyway.
Not any style.
If we're not pressing and intensity is our identity, then what tactics would you like to see, Craig?
It's a hard one because the slow build up, get the pressure cooker going type thing, and then strike. We either from the first whistle we're gung ho and we'll absolutely annihilate everybody within the first 10 minutes and try and get that early goal, which is something that we tried lots last season. We did it against Villa. We got the goal in, was it the first 5 minutes? I think it was with Tonali's, something like that. We got a relatively early goal against Liverpool. Can't remember the exact timing of it, but it was early on in the first half. So it is something that we do try to do, because obviously they then got to come out and attack us, and that is where we are at our most potent, when we are on the counter, and that is where I think we could get Brentford in this one. Pretty the fact they've got a lot of pace going forward. They will throw bodies forward. They're not afraid to do so. They've scored 2 goals per game this season, so we've got a decent return rate of that one. But I'm thinking counter-attack is where we could be at our strongest, unless they try to play out from the back, in which the press should be executed, hopefully as good as it was last season.
I'll tell you what else I'd like to see. I'd like to see a little bit more composure and intelligence with the ball. Against Brighton, we tried balls that just weren't coming off. They were getting intercepted. They were far too predictable. We on occasion try Hollywood balls that wouldn't come off. I think a lot of times we just need to. We're trying to be too clever. I do wonder sometimes if some of our players are believing their own hype, believing their own press. There was an awful lot of really positive things said about Newcastle after last season, Champions League and everything else. There was the Amazon documentary, which was obviously highly stage managed to put Newcastle in the positive light and their owners. And lots of positivity during the summer, lots of big signings. And I kind of think to some extent has that seeped in a little bit into their way they go about playing the game on the match day. The professionals, but they're still people at the same time. And, if you blow enough smoke up anyone's arse, they're going to start believing it. And I think I would just like to see us put the foot on the ball a little bit, have a little look around, see what's on. If there's nothing on, take an easy pass to the side. Divin can blammering over the top of people's heads down the wing if you know there's nobody there. Divin try and do some clever thing through the middle if it's just going to run through the keeper. Wait until those spaces and positions have opened up so that the odds are in your favour before you're doing it. And I think if we can do that, as well as press when we should press and sit a little bit further back when we need to, then we'll be fine. I think we'll beat Brentford, I reckon.
Well, we'll get to your starting 11 right now. We'll bring it up on the screen. And get the right one up. That can help. There we go. So I'll let you go through your 11, Ellie.
Well, we've got a very refreshed, non-internationally travelled Nick Poop at the back. Jesus, I hope he's got his good head on this time and not that bloody. I don't want to shit on him too much because he's a great keeper, but he has momentary brain farts, and that when they scored the goal Brighton last time around, when he just had to pass it to the wing where Trippier was in acres of space, and then we would have progressed up the wing. He goes and hawks it straight back to them, and they end up scoring from it. And then there's the other one where the shot comes in and he just sort of spills it, like his arm's in right position. It's into his midriff and he just spills it to Ferguson. So I want to see him improve his levels because he's a good keeper. Then we've got Trips at the back, of course, unless he's absolutely knackered, but I suspect it'll be Trips because who else? Fab Shaw coming in for his routine concussion in this game, no doubt, or some other kind of ridiculous injury. Burn at left, and I'm saying him first because I've gone with Lascelles to par with Shaw. Now I'm doing that because despite me singing from the rooftops that we should get a left back in, and we did with Lewis Hall, and then have Burn as cover for centre back, that has proven to be a god awful idea in the last few games, where Burn has just been badly exposed for his lack of. I was going to say just pace, but it's not. It's his positional sense as well. He's been drawn out of position quite a lot. And I suspect it's because he's been at left back for so long now, or just about long enough, that his mind is now essentially a left back rather than a centre back. And it's getting badly exposed. He can get better, obviously, but I think Byrne is a sturdier left back than he is a centre back. So I'll put him there. And Lascelles, because Lascelles, as much as we shit on him, he's not a terrible player. He is a specialised centre back. He is still a club captain. You've given it trips. I appreciate that, but he is still a club captain. And he's been around this group of lads probably longer than everybody. So, if you've got that understanding, if anyone's going to have that understanding, it'll be Lascelles. He's good in the air, and he's not terribly slow. He'll be faster than Byrne, I reckon. So that's why I've gone for the back four there, assuming Botman is out. Then in the middle, Big Joe, Bruno, and Tonali. I'm hoping that Tonali is fine for the reasons we've already discussed. Bruno and Big Joe, I didn't say how much they played, and I know they've obviously done a long haul or longish haul. Well, I don't even know whether we're playing, to be honest with you. But hoping they're all right to play this game because that's our best midfield, I think, at the minute. And then we've got Golden down the left for his energy. He's just non-stop running. Miggy on the right, I suspect he's going to be perfectly fine. And if he is fine, he'll start. If he's not fine, probably Murphy. Murphy's one of the quicker lads, so Murphy could probably fill in for Miggy. You could also maybe stick Golden down the right and then stick Barnes down the left. Or you could even put Isaac on the left, Wilson in the middle, and then Golden down the right. So there's the beauty of all the signings that we made is that we have these options that we can utilise. And then I've gone with Isak up top. As much as I love Wilson, and he did score last time, I think Eddie Howe has decided that Isak is the future striker for this club. But yeah, what do you reckon? Any changes you'd make?
The only potential change I would make would be if Tonali's not fit, just to bring in Longstaff. But apart from that, that would be the 11 I would go with. Aye.
Longstaff in for Tonali.
If he's not fit.
Yeah, I could see that happening. So you keep Gordon and Biggie on the wings?
I think Mark had a good idea of having Gordon on the right and Bonds on the left. If Miggy is a bit fatigued or anything like that, and maybe use Miggy as an impact sub, that could potentially be an option. But again, we've got quite a few impact subs who can make a difference. Doesn't have to be Miggy or Bonds or anybody like that. And Wilson is obviously a brilliant impact sub, as we found out against Brighton when he did get that late goal, albeit didn't come to nothing, but it's still a well taken goal, to be honest.
He's an absolutely brilliant striker. He's in the form of his life, man, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And Isak is brilliant down the left as well. I kind of sometimes prefer him down the left because it gives him a chance to run with the ball and cut inside and do something. Whereas if he's in the middle waiting for service, so far this season, we've not been great at delivering. You know, the set pieces have been awful. Like they weren't particularly brilliant towards the end of last season either, but this season they don't seem to have improved any. It'd be nice to see Tonali taking some set pieces in place of Trips. Maybe if he gets a few more, he can do a little bit better than the ones he's already had. I think Trips is just getting to the point now where he struggles to get past the first man, as much as I love the guy. But anyway, that's Newcastle. What we got for Brentford?
Brentford, this is the same 11 that started against Bournemouth in that 2-2 draw as mentioned previously. So in goal, we've got Flecken. Don't know much about him at all. Then we've got Henry, not that Henry. Ben Mee, Nathan Pinnock, and Pinnock is the one that put the ball in the back of the net, which caused me to dye me Bonds. So hopefully he will do the same this one. And somehow I've still managed to got Jimmy Milner, who is a Brighton player. Obviously, I haven't updated him from the last one. So God knows who they're going to have as right back. So apologies on that one. Midfield, we've got Janelt, I think it's pronounced. Norgard as captain, Jensen in the middle. Then Shard, I think that's pronounced again. And Buemo on the other side, and Visa up top. Now, and Buemo being their danger man with 4 goals in 4 games. But their midfield is pretty tasty. They've got the option to go long, go short, the odd one too, that type of thing. But as a 4-3-3 versus 4-3-3, it should be a well-balanced, well-executed game with pretty much the best players coming out on top, hopefully, you reckon, Lee?
I didn't realise I had Sade playing like. They're going to do a little sing-song while she's up there. That's one for the old people. Janels, Norgard, and Jensen. So there's a bit of a Scandinavian, Nordic-y kind of feel there in the middle, isn't there? Wissa, and Bemo, as we've already said, pretty decent. But yeah, I mean, Ben Mee, he still can do a job. I have no idea who the flagging hell that is at the back in goal. But it will be interesting if do they usually run out 4-3-3 then? Is that what they did last time?
They do. Yeah, every game this season in the league, according to transfer market anyway, they have lined up 4-3-3.
All right, well, that's interesting. So it'll be interesting to see how both the teams operate in possession and out of possession, and how that kind of moves people around. Yeah, that should be quite interesting. That, but I still think we're going to win. However, especially if they've got James Milner in there and he's not even in that team.
Well, they've already got a handicap in with his Zimmer frame, saying that he's down the south coast against us last week, whenever it was. But it should be a good game. Hopefully, it is one of a lot of goals, and hopefully the goals come our way rather than theirs. Do not want to see another 3-3 game where we went behind twice in that one. But I would certainly love another 5-1. Helps with the goal difference massively. We are currently sat on 0, I think, for goal difference for the first time in what is well over a year now. Who would have thought that?
I wouldn't have thought after the 6-1 against Villa. That's a bloody show.
That seems ages ago, doesn't it? Jesus Christ. I wouldn't mind another scoreline like that as well. But I'll get your prediction on this one, Lee. But I'm also going to get your first goal scorer as well.
Oh, Christ. All right, well, I reckon I've given this no thought whatsoever, but I think we'll probably win No, I think I'm going to go for 2-2.
2-2.
And the first goal scorer will probably be Bueno.
Are you going there to draw, so you're then getting pleased if we get the win? You trying to be a bit conservative, maybe, or is that what you genuinely think is going to be a 2-2? Bit of a Desmond.
I think I don't know. I just suspect that it'll be a Desmond of some sort or other. Well, no, sorry, I suspect it'll be a draw of some sort or other. And I'm going to say a 2-2 because I think 1-1 might be a little bit too drab. So I'd love to think we can get a win. I know I've just said all with this podcast, I think we'll win. And then as soon as you put me on the spot for a score, I went, ooh, 2-2. Sod it. 3-2 Newcastle.
3-2 Newcastle. Are you sticking with the same first goal scorer?
No, 4-1. 4-1. There you go.
Oh, heck. Jesus Christ. Right, 4-1 we're going with. And the Bremo first goal scorer still?
I do that because then it'll be a sweet victory. And if by the way, we win by more than 4 goals, you have to shave your hair off this time.
No, you have to. This thing looks like a half-eaten peanut M&M when it's shaved, mate. It's not
there you are. You've got nothing to lose, have you? Not me with my fabulous locks here.
We're going to be thin on top, a bit like Dimmy, aren't you? But
cheeky bugger.
I've seen it before. But now I'm going to go with 3-0. I think we'll keep a clean sheet.
Oh, yeah.
Aye.
We don't do clean sheets. When's the last time we had a clean sheet? It's been ages.
It was Leicester at home.
It's been like 11 or 12 games now. Yeah.
When we clinched Champions League football was our last clean sheet. So, yeah, I think I'm going to go 3-0. And I'm going to go with Big Joe to get the first goal. He's got 3 goals in 4 games against them lot, so he's due another. He is our target man for that one. So let us know in the comments down below what your prediction for the game is and who you think the first goal scorer is going to be. But I think that will wrap it up for us today. I'll put my teeth back in on that one. I'm going to go to bed. I am absolutely knackered. It's not even 9 o'clock yet, but you know, it's the joys of getting old, I suppose.
You look fingered,
it's going to be fun.
Absolutely fingered, as Bobby would say. Bobby loves getting fingered.
We should get that on a t-shirt for him. I think we did at one point, didn't you?
No,
along with Keegan's "Don't Be a Pussy." But that's another story. Nat, we will wrap up there again. Let us know in the comments down below what your prediction would be. And if you don't already, please comment down below and subscribe to the channel too. Give us a 5-star review on the audio-only podcast if that's where you catch us. Otherwise, we will see you on the next one, which will be a review of this game that we've just previewed. But we will also be talking about a small little game in Milan midweek. I don't know if anyone's going to be interested in that, but the little game down in Italy. I can't remember who's playing, but I think it might be something to do with the Champions League, I reckon.
I'll tell you it isn't. It's Magpies.
Hey! And there are all the Magpies in Milan. There never will be any Magpies in Milan, but there will be 4,000 Geordies screaming for 12 toilets.
How good is that, man? How good does that sound? Just the thought of it, man. It's just incredible. Yeah, can't wait. Can't wait. I don't care what happens in the score. I don't care what happens this season in Champions League. It's just going to be it's been far too long.
It's going to be absolutely epic. So join us on Sunday. That is when we will be doing again a review of this Brentford game and a preview of the AC Milan game. We will see you all then. And thanks for joining me, Lee. And I will see you on Sunday.
Cheers, Slim. Cheers, everyone.